Okay, we're going to apply trigonometric functions to fuel consumption. We have a sine function. Well, the first step is, of course, to identify our A, B, C, and D. So, let's see what we've got here. Well, we know that A is always right next to the left of the sign. So this A is going to be 21.6. B is going to be right next to our variable. So B is 2 pi over 365. And C is in the parentheses, negative 10.9. D is attached to the function. Now it's over on the left here. A little bit unusual. Handle that. 30.3. That's our D value, our vertical shift. Where the daily consumption, C, in gallons of diesel fuel on a farm, daily consumption, modeled by this function C, where T is the time in days, with T equals 1 corresponding to January 1st. Okay, so we see that we have a year. How much fuel is consumed in a year? So using a graphing calculator to graph the function, sketch the graph below and include all appropriate labels. We want all of our points. Okay, so we have to do a few things first. So we are going to start with a graph. So I'm going to get a graph going, but before I actually can graph, I need to figure a few things out. So I'm going to have a D value. I know what the D value is. It's 30.3. So that I do know. So why don't I get that? I can always tell that right away. The midline of this function is 30.3. Okay, so I know that my midline is 30.3. And I only need, as we have stated, we only need 3 values on our y-axis, right? So I need a maximum and a minimum. Well, my max and my minimum is defined by the midline and A. So I'm going to be going 21.6 above the midline and 21.6 below the midline. So we can get that much right away. So let's do that. So I have 30.3 plus 21.6, which gives me a maximum value of 51.9. 51.9, and then I'll take 30.3 minus 21.6, which will give me a minimum value of 8.7. Okay, so I know that much about my graph. So then I got to figure out some more things. What's the period of this graph? Well, the period is exactly what we do with graphs. Period is 2 pi over b. Well, b is 2 pi over 365. So this is a fraction. I'm going to multiply the numerator by the reciprocal 365 over the denominator. So I'm going to I'm multiplying the numerator by the reciprocal of the denominator. My 2 pi's cancel, giving me a period of 365, which to be expected, correct? Because what is the daily consumption in a year? What's my interval? My interval is going to be 365, the period, divided by 4. And that's going to be a year divided by 4. So 365 divided by 4 is going to be a period of about 3 months each, right? 365 divided by 4 is 91.25. 91.25, or approximately 3 months. Okay, that's my interval. Now we've said with T1 corresponding to January 1st. So I know that my graph is going to be January, February, March, April, May, June, July, August, September, October, November, December. Now, I also can do this in days. So we could also do this in days. I have January as number 1, December as 365. If I would like to do this in days, I can divide this up into days. So I'm going to add, to divide this up into my 4 equal periods would be the middle period would be 365 divided by 2 is going to be 182.5. Dividing that in 2 would be 91.25, and then 182.5 plus 91.25 is going to be 273.75 plus 91.25 will bring me again all the way up to 365, because 365 would be again in January, right? That would be a full 300, I put 365 in December, but that's actually going to be January. That would be a full 365 days, which would be a full year. Okay, so I can do it in months, or I can do it in days. Okay, so there's my my graph. Now let's talk about, we've got our period. What is the period? So we've answered the question, what is our period? 365 days. What is the average fuel consumption? What is the average? The average fuel consumption is going to be 30.3. Okay, average 30.3 gallons. And this, by the way, is days. Period is days. Now, before we go any further, let's graph this on our calculator and sketch our graph, okay? So, before we get any further, let's take y equals and just put our graph in 21.6 sine. Now, extra parentheses, please, because you want to be very careful. 2 pi divided by 365 parentheses x plus 10.9 parentheses plus 30.3. Make sure you are in radian mode. Make sure you're in radian mode. Go over to your window. And let's set our window. Make sure our window is carefully set. Because what is our domain? Our domain is the year, 0 to 365. What's our scale going to be? Well, we want to see all of this graph on our window, so I'm going to set the scale at 100. We know that on our y-axis we're going to go from 0 to 51.9, so I've scaled it a little higher, and I've given it also a y scale of 5. So if you want to copy that, you can. So I've set my window, I've got my radians, now I'm going to graph. Now I have a shifted sine curve. Okay, it looks like a negative cosine curve, it's actually a shifted sine curve. And what do I have? I have a minimum here in January. So my minimum value is going to be in January, which is going to be 8.7. I have an intercept here at 91.25 days, or in April. In July, I have a maximum value, 51.9, a intercept or midpoint value in October, and back in January, again, a minimum value. So we can sketch this curve for fuel consumption. Oops. Let me just try this. Do the best you can there. Okay. So this is fuel consumption on a farm. Okay. All right. So now the question number, so this question, what is the average daily fuel consumption? 30.3 gallons. What term of the model did you use? Now the terms of the model are 30, this whole right here is a term, this is a term. Terms are things that are multiplied together. What term did we use? Well, we used D, okay? We used D. Because D gives us the midline of our function. What is the midline? Well, midline is the average. So that's exactly what we need. What is the average daily fuel consumption? 30.3 gallons. Okay. All right, next question says, during which months does the consumption exceed 40 gallons per day? Well, how can I figure that out? Okay. What I can do, take my graph, and I can graph another function. Okay, I can take a y2 equals what? I can take y2 equals 40. And let's look at that graph. Well, during which months does the consumption exceed 40? Well, all of these months, between this month, between those months. Well, let's do second calc intersect 5, and let's find out where we are. I think I have it right there. All right, where is that? Enter, 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 enter. And I get an intersection at x equals 1.23. X equals 123.8. Well, if I'm at 123, x equal, and so let me draw that line. X equals 40. Okay, draw that line. So this line right here is x equals 40, and I have an intersection at x equals 123. And I'm going to have another intersection over here. So I've got to figure out where is x equals 123. Well, what I can do is I can take x equals 0 and add to it the months of the year. I could say, what is January? Has 30 days. February has 28 days, and March has 31 days, and April has 30 days. Okay, so if I add all those up, then what do I get? Well, I get, let's add those up together. I'm trying to see exactly which month. Does that fall into April or May? So I'm going to have to add those up, and let's quit here, and I'm going to get 30 plus 28 plus 31 plus 30 gives me 119 days. So I want to know I'm at 123 days, so that is going to bring me into 123 minus 119. Sorry, I made that math error. Sorry, 123 minus 119 gives me, well, and 123.8. So that tells me I am actually into May. I am in the very beginning of May. So this is going to be approximately the beginning of May. So now I have moved into May. Okay? So what about this point right here? Looks like we're in September. Let's verify. Let's verify that. So we're going to go to the graph. We're going to say second calc intersect. We're going to move over. Okay. Move it back over and say enter, enter, enter. And we get 252 days. So right here on our graph, this is x equals 252 days. 252 days. I know if October is 273, let's just calculate this. Let's quit. If October is 273 minus 30, then this is 243. Therefore, this point has got to be in September. Okay, so I know during what months. Well, that would be May and September. Do we see how we figured that out? Okay, May and September. That the consumption, this is y equals 40. So I plotted these points. I got x is 123 and x is 252, and I saw that these points hit right there and right there, and so those were the months. Okay, what is the domain of this function? Well, we've really already talked about this. The domain of the function is 0 to 365, and the days of the year, of 1 year. Approximately how many gallons of fuel were sold by the farm this year? All right, now the key word here is approximately. We have an approximation. What is the approximation? That is given by your D value. We have an approximation of 30.3 gallons for a daily consumption. So what are we going to do? We're going to take the daily approximation and we're going to multiply it by 365 to get an approximation by the fuel sold this year. So we're just going to take that daily average, 3.3 times 365, and we're going to get how many gallons sold? 11,059, 59 approximately gallons sold this year. Gallons sold this year. Now when you're writing this out, please write complete sentences so you can get full credit. But it's your keywords approximately. Your D value gives you your approximation. Multiply that by your domain, 365. Okay? All right, now what you're going to do is for your homework, you are going to do the sales problem. Okay? So what I want you to do now is I want you to try this problem on your own. Exactly like we've done the fuel problem, and I will do a separate video for that, but try it first. It will do you absolutely no good to just follow me again. You go ahead and do this process and then check yourself, okay? There you go.